Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, and I hope you guys have a nice day. In here, we would like to present about clause and its types. With me, Nisa MJ, and my friend Ivanka Ajeng Yulianisiwi. Now, let's move to the material. Okay, first, about clause. Okay, the meaning of clause is a group of related words containing a subject and predicate within a sentence or itself as an independent sentence. In here, we have to take note that a clause may stand as a simple sentence or may join another clause to make a sentence. Therefore, a sentence consists of one, two, or more clauses. Example, I will meet him in office. In this sentence is one clause with I is a subject and meet is a predicate. And the second example, the teacher asked the question but no one answered. In this sentence is consists two clauses. And now we move to the next material. The next is type of clause. In this material, we have two types. They are main clause and subordinate clause, with three submaterial of subordinate clause. Those are noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause. The first is main clause. Okay guys, the main clause or independent clause is a clause that expresses a complete thought and can stand as sentence. With the pattern subject plus verb is complete thought. Okay, now about the examples. First, lazy student whine. With students is subject and whine is verb, and cola spilled over the glass and splashed onto the counter. With the cola as the subject, spilled and splashed as the verbs. And the last, my dog loves pizza crust. With dog as the subject and loves as the verb. Okay, next, the second is subordinate clause. Subordinate clause is a clause which does not express complete thought and depends on another clause, main clause, to express complete thought. With the pattern subordinate conjunction plus subject plus verb is incomplete thought. We have to take a note of this material. Subordinate clause can never stand alone as complete sentence. To complete the thought, you must attach its subordinate clause to main clause. Next is the examples of subordinate clause. Whenever lazy student whine. With whenever is subordinate conjunction, students as the subject and whine as the verb. And then because he suffers from fever. With because as a subordinate conjunction, he as the subject and suffers as the verb. And the last example, as cola spilled over the glass and splashed onto the counter. With as is subordinate conjunction, cola as the subject and spilled and splashed are the verb. The next material is the comparison of main clause and subordinate clause with this following pattern. The first pattern, main clause plus without comma plus subordinate clause. And the second pattern, subordinate clause plus with comma plus main clause. With these examples, the first example, whenever lazy student whine, Professor Hansel throws chalk erasers at their heads. So in this sentence, the subordinate clause is whenever lazy student whine, and the main clause is Professor Hansel threw chalk eraser at their heads. And the second, he takes medicine because he suffers from fever. With he takes medicine as the main clause and because he suffered from fever as the subordinate clause. And the last, Sarah ran for the paper towel as cola spilled over the glass and splashed onto the counter. With Sarah ran for the paper towel is the main clause, and as cola spilled over the glass and splashed onto the counter is the subordinate clause.
Okay, now types of subordinate clause. A subordinate clause or dependent clause may function as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb in sentence. On the basis of their function in a sentence, subordinate clause can be divided into following types: 1. Noun clause, and the number 2. Adjective clause, and the number 3. Adverb clause. Okay, the first, noun clause. A dependent clause that functions as a noun in a sentence is called noun clause. A noun clause performs some function like a noun in a sentence. Okay, let's go to the example. What he did made a problem for his family. In above sentence, the clause what he did function as a noun, hence it is a noun clause. Noun clause works as a noun that acts as a subject, object, or predicate in a sentence. A noun clause starts with words that, what, whatever, who, whom, whoever, whomever. Okay, now the second, adjective clause. Okay, definition of adjective clause. A dependent clause that functions as an adjective in a sentence is called adjective clause. An adjective clause will begin with a relative pronoun such as who, whom, whose, which, or that, or a relative adverb such as when, where, or why. Okay, now let's move on to the formula of adjective clause. The first, relative pronoun or adverb plus subject plus verb equals incomplete do. And then the second, relative pronoun or adverb plus verb equals incomplete do. Okay, now the example of adjective clause. Number 1. Whom Professor Russell hit in the head with a chalk eraser? Now the explanation. Whom is a relative pronoun, and then Professor Russell is a subject, and then hit is a verb. And then number 2. Where he chews and draws with great enthusiasm. And explanation. Where is a relative adverb, he is a subject, and then choose draws is a verb. And then number 3, who had helped me? Now explanation. Who is a relative pronoun, had helped is a verb. Remember, like subordinate clause, adjective clause cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. So, you must connect them to main clause to finish the two. Okay, let's move on to the third, adverb clause. Okay, a dependent clause that functions as an adverb in a sentence is called adverb clause. It modifies or describes the situation in main clause in terms of times, frequency or how often, cause and effect, contrast, condition, intensity, or to what extent. The subordinating conjunction used for adverb clause are as follows. Number 1. Time such as when, whenever, since, until, before, after, while, as, by the time, as soon as. And the number 2. Cause and effect such as because, since, now that, as long as, so that. And the number 3, contrast, such as although, even, whereas, while, though. And then number 4, condition, such as if, unless, only if, whether or not, even if, providing or provided that, or in case. Okay, now the example of adverb clause. Number 1. Don't go before he comes. Before he comes is an adverb clause of times. And then number 2. He takes medicines because he is ill. Because he is ill is an adverb clause of cause and effect. And then number 3. Although he tried a lot, he couldn't climb up the tree. Although he tried a lot is an adverb clause of contrast. And then number 4. Unless you study for the test, you can't pass it. Unless you study for the test is adverb clause of condition. That's enough from us. Thank you very much for your great attention and for your listening. May all those we have shared be beneficial for all of us. And thank you very much again and goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.